Hello, everyone. We're just going to take a few more minutes while everybody joins. We're about 2 minutes past. We have a poll on screen. Um, just looking to see where that poll is to see if we can um, get it up and running. Just making sure that everybody polls and quizzes. Okay. I see we have some responses already coming through. This is great. Um, Polls are always fun because we get to see where you are now and then see where how what you're thinking later. We have about 18 people who have joined so far, and we're expecting considerably more. So we'll give it just a couple more minutes. Maybe we'll get started at 5 after. We have about 1 minute to go, and it looks like joining is slowing down, so we'll get started very shortly. Okay, looks like we are ready to go. We're right at time. So I think what we'll do is leave the poll open. So any people who arrive late, they can give their thoughts and then jump right into wherever we're at. So thank you so much for coming today. Really appreciate it. There's a team of us that got together and all realized we had very similar thoughts on what we wanted to bring to the general public regarding upskilling and just information that maybe only the experts end up knowing sometimes. And really, it's information that everybody should know. So, this is why we are bringing you the webinar today. Could we run over to the title page? And then that will help me remember the title. But this is about everyday intelligence. This is not just for experts, but this is for absolutely every single person out there, regardless of where you sit across any of the borders of the whole planet. So I understand that we have people coming today from several different countries, which is fabulous. So good morning to those of you in the morning. Good afternoon to those of us in our time zone, and good evening to everybody just east of where we're at. So my name is Dr. Megan Crawford, and I am the PI, was principal investigator of the Futures and Analytics Research Hub at Edinburgh Napier University. And I'm also a research lead for our newest research center, which is the Center for Business Innovations and Sustainable Solutions, or CBIS for short. We are hosted today by Dr. Shadipa Sarkar, who is a lecturer at the University of Strathclyde and in the Engineering College. And then I will pass the mic over to our lead today.
Hello everyone. My name is Shaivi Kant. I am a UX designer and foresight researcher. I have a degree from the Royal College of Art, and I'm currently working at the intersection of foresight, design, and emerging technologies like AI. Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you. That's fantastic. So Shaivi's going to be leading the session today, but we'll just do some housekeeping first. First, as maybe you may have noticed, today's webinar is being recorded. I'm not sure if anybody has hit the record button yet. Yes, we're being recorded right now. So if you do not want to end up in the recording, please keep that in mind when you use the chat function or the Q&A, the question and answer window. So for anybody who's not familiar with Zoom, there are two options for communicating with us and with each other in the webinars. So there's a chat feature, and you can either message everybody or you can message just specific hosts if you want. And then there's a Q&A. And we really encourage you to enter questions as we go through, as Shaivi walks us through this fascinating world of AI. Some of y'all would have also submitted questions ahead of time. Don't worry if you can't remember, just ask us again. We have all the lists, and we're trying to make sure we leave really good amount of time to go through your questions and make sure we really help you understand what AI is, what you can do with it, and what AI can do for you as the professionals that we are. So that's the end of my introduction. I'm going to mute for the rest of the time and pass over to Shaivi.
Thank you so much, Megan. So, beautiful people, let's get started. Can we see? Are we all good? Amazing. So, the topic was generative AI, and I thought of doing a little cool thing. I was like, how about I ask the most commonly used AI tools to paint a picture of what AI is according to them. And as you can see on the left, there's Gemini, there's ChatGPT, and there's Perplexity. And all of them think artificial intelligence is like an omnipresent brain with a single eye. Well, that's what they think. But let me tell you a little glimpse of what AI actually is. So, you remember this mirror of Erised scene from Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone? Well, for those who haven't, it's basically a mirror that shows you what you desire. Here, Harry doesn't see the world through this image. He sees what his heart wants. Well, AI is the same. It shows us reflection of our own inputs. It excels at plausibility, which is why it sounds so convincing, but it lacks the real world judgment to know if its plausible output is true. Now, if your prompt is vague, the output will be vague. If your interest is clear, it will mirror that clarity. So basically, AI is not intelligence on its own, it's responsive intelligence. So now, uh, thinking about just going ahead as responsive intelligence, what is AI? It's actually pattern recognition. LLMs, language models like ChatGPT, don't actually think or understand like humans do. They don't know what's true or false or what's right or wrong. Instead, they're extremely advanced pattern machines like language calculators that predict what words are likely to come next based on everything they've learned from huge amounts of text. Now, you can think of them like a mirror reflecting human knowledge, not a mind creating new truth. Well, they are brilliant at imitation and not understanding. The output may feel intelligent, but it's really the result of patterns and probabilities, a mathematical illusion, not real consciousness. So, in short, AI is not magic. It's statistics made beautiful, as you can see here with a little wand. So now let's see how AI actually constructs answers. We have seen the front end of it. Let me give you a little glimpse of the back end. So we're going to use an example here where the prompt is write a poem about a rainy day. So now when you ask for a poem, the AI doesn't understand it like a person would. Instead, it receives the prompt as a digital text. The prompt becomes a set of instructions for what the answer should look like, what style, tone, and content to focus on. AI acts like the conductor of an orchestra. I hope you have been part of orchestra. I think you should visit one once. So the conductor, it organizes words, phrases, and ideas so the answer flows naturally and fits together. It tracks what has already been written, ensuring each line or word connects logically to the next. AI generates each part of the answer by statistically predicting what comes next. It uses patterns learned from millions of examples of text, including poems in our prompt, and chooses the next best word that fits the prompt. Thus, if you change the prompt to something like write a short poem about a rainy Tuesday, the outputs will be vastly different. So then again, AI is not magic, your framing is magic. So now let's talk about how you, the human users, how we are using and experiencing AI. Well, AI is an extension of our sensory imaginations. I want to give you examples of how sensory glimpses come into picture via AI prompts. Writing poems, uh, dreaming about snakes, like asking psychological questions, uh, cooking recipes. So it's being used for image generation, music composition, fusion recipes, dreams, emotions, and lived experiences, and so many questions. Through each sense, AI helps us explore, not replace human perception. So going back to it is like our little co-pilot, our little assistant. So now, what would be the ideal use cases of AI? We have all been using AI since the past couple of years, but what are the ideal ones? So I decided to talk about the top four professions which are relevant to our audience today. Let's start with academics. So for academics, it facilitates a powerful tool to learn, revise, assess, and grow. It has helped you. I'm pretty sure all of us have used it for mock assignments, email communications, to get fake data out of it, to practice, to develop code, and even to draft cover letters. And then how about small businesses? Well, AI is like a smart helping hand for these businesses. That is, by taking care of repetitive work, so humans can focus on building relationships, ideas, and growth. So we have seen AI in these chatbots, marketing campaigns, or even coming out with trends or to enhance customer experience. How about creatives? For them, I think AI is like a studio assistant. It helps spark ideas, visualize possibilities, but the soul of creation still belongs to the artist. So you would have seen design inspirations, art variations, text ideas. It's like a thought partner more so. And then last but not the least, nature. Now, this is something unique. This is something very important. Uh, when used for nature, AI becomes like humanity's listening device, helping us care for planet with more compassion and precision. Well, in all of these four cases, AI is like a universal collaborator. It's adaptable to any field, but it definitely needs human guidance. So now, talking about human guidance is where I want to take you to the art of prompting. Prompting is one of the most important facets when it comes to using AI. And I want to give you an example of recipes. All of us or have people or friends around who are amazing chefs. Now, clear recipes make great dishes, and clear prompts likewise make great outputs. Now, if you just tell someone make food, you might get anything from a toast to a biryani. But if you say, I want a breakfast, a quick breakfast bowl with oats and fruits, you're going to get clear, tasty results. Similarly, AI tool cooks with the ingredients you give it. The more details, the better the dish. Now, I want to help you with a little structure or a little template that you can literally use anywhere and everywhere. And that is this. You are a or have to. There, here you give role or provide context. Full stop. You need to, you explain the task. And the next sentence is it should be whatever the limits or specifications or guide rails, as we said. Now, let me elaborate this with a little example. So the example is you are a mobile phone expert. You need to suggest a phone to buy. It should be suitable for a 40-year-old mother and should have a good camera. Mm, well, now if this template would have, of course, you'll find various similar frameworks here, but this template is just a little simplification of what is a prompt, what kind of prompt you can try. Now, there are just to give you an example of how a bad prompt looks like, it would have just been like suggest a phone with a good camera, and that's all. You won't get the kind of outputs you would have got if you've used a good prompt, and thus prompting is important. So we have talked about prompts, we have talked about how AI works, we know how AI is being used. Now let's start building a little toolkit for you. And then why am I talking about toolkit? Well, because everyone is building AI, an agent or a platform, and it's overwhelming. How do you know what works for you and what is genuine? So, for example, there are so many cars in the market, but then how do you pick which car to buy, right? So then your goal here should not be to try all AI tools. It should be to find your own rhythm. So, just based on the most commonly used reasons for using AI, I have a little toolkit here. So if you want something for image generation, and note that all of these are freemium options, you can rely on ChatGPT, Nano Bananas by Gemini, or even Adobe Firefly. If you are someone looking for help in writing and communication, you can look into Grammarly, StudioWrite, Writer, and some similar tools. Now, if you are someone looking for reasoning and problem solving, the best options are Gemini, DeepSeek, and Perplexity. And then for workflow automation, specifically going back to our audience who have small businesses, we can do Zapier, we can do Power Automate by Microsoft, and even Make. Uh, so the overall intent behind this particular toolkit idea is that it supports your workflow and not someone and is not dependent on someone or some social hype. So your tools evolve with your goals, and these are just a few examples. Now, Understanding risks. This is one of the most important things. You know what AI is, you know how it works. You know also how to use it at its best. But there are a few things that you must be aware of, starting with hallucinations. These are instances where an AI model generates false or literally nonsensical, misleading information and presents it as an actual or accurate thing. Let me give you a little example. If I ask AI, what's the capital of India? It tells me the capital of India is Mars. And I'm like, but isn't Mars a planet? And then AI tells me, no, no, no. As per my latest information, the capital of India, Mars, was declared in 1945. So it will make it so convincing that if you didn't know that India's capital is Delhi, you would have literally believed that India's capital is Mars. And that's basic hallucination. So you need to be very careful about it. Next, deep fakes. Oh my God, this is such a nice story. Let me tell you the story before defining deep fakes. What once happened was basically there was this employer from Ferrari. We all love Ferrari, the brand. And the employer gets a call. It says that the CEO, it's from the CEO of the company, and he's like, you need to transfer some amount, a huge amount for a payment. Now, the voice is very similar to the CEO. It's very convincing. The details are very accurate, but this employee still thinks that there is something weird, something wrong. So what the human employee does is asks, "Well, tell me which was the latest book that you referred to us during our client meeting." Boom, the entire scam falls apart. And so basically a little human detail can help understanding if it's a deep fake. So then what is a deep fake? It's basically deceptive media which is shown as realistic. So you need to be very careful about deep fakes. I know all of us have seen examples, obnoxiously bad examples of deep fake. Okay, next, biases. Biases are reinforcing stereotypes. Now, I laugh a very rhetorical laugh because there is this report from basically there is a lawsuit that's currently in motion against Workday. All those who are applying for jobs know Workday as a recruitment portal, right? And the AI that was integrated by Workday had would automatically reject older job applicants. And that was a huge, huge, huge problem. So that's what biases are. They are just reinforced stereotypes that AI has adopted from the data it has been trained on, in simple words. Okay, let's talk about misinformation. Now, this is something which doesn't exist. It's like invisible, but it has affected each and every one of us. It's basically inaccurate information. To give you an example, this year, NewsGuard, which is a firm that rates the reliability of online sources, identified 1,200 AI-generated news and information sites with seemingly legitimate names like iBusiness Days or ILN Top News. All of these were publishing articles in 16 different languages and churning out fake claims and operating with little to no human oversight. This is very dangerous. So every time you come across an article, a post, you need to verify if it's from trusted source. Going to the next. So, trusted source, talking about need for critical thinking. Well, why do we need critical thinking? Let me give you five simple examples. Uh, okay, we need this to make sure that you validate. So when I say critical thinking, it's basically whatever output AI has given you, you need to make sure you've validated if it's right or no, wrong. Now, how would you validate it? You can ask it to show sources, or there is also a method called triple sourcing, where basically any output you get, you check it with three different sources. You validate it with at least thrice. It's one of the rules. You don't trust AI's answers at face value. You confirm it. You can check with reputable sites like BBC or WHO. You can cross check dates, authors, or just ask it to an actual human. Uh, well, ask again, ask. Don't mistake fluency to truth. Uh, if you give a prompt like if you get a response, right, you can ask questions like did this information come from, list the references or links used in this explanation. Even if AI can't access live data, this encourages transparency in reasoning. And then last but not the least, judge and ascertain. The final decision is always yours, you, the humans. And human skepticism keeps AI honest. So use specialized tools out there, like for fast checking. You have Perplexity AI, which gives live citations for every response. You also have Google Fast Check Explorer, which checks claims from measured outlets. And there are many of such softwares. So basically, our intelligence lies not in how fast we adopt AI. Even machines can do it. We are humans. It is how wisely we question AI. We must make sure that we rely on it, on what is real and not just convincing. And thus, critical thinking is your best defense in this era of AI. So now, talking about ethical use, another important thing. Ethical AI means honesty and respect. If you use AI in your work, acknowledge it. Give credit to the sources. Don't let convenience replace your authenticity. You need to remember that human creators or organizations is always accountable for the final output, not the AI. Now, I just don't say it because everyone is saying it. You need to know of the repercussions as well. Um, Organizations across the world are reinforcing laws and frameworks. Dr. Megan here has developed one of the most amazing frameworks. You can talk to her about it later. There are repercussions on various different levels. Various workplaces and schools now track AI generated submissions. Undisclosed use can harm credibility and lead to penalties. 2024 MIT study found that people using AI writing tools showed reduced brain activity in regions linked to attention, working memory, and executive planning. So, what I'm seeing here is it's not just surface level repercussions, these are deep repercussions that might just alter the very DNA of your own existence. And then, not just that, once people sense you as someone who is using false or like artificial or misleading content, it's affecting your own authenticity and credibility, right? Okay, now this is just a little nudge for you to slow down. Let the questions seep in before seeking answers. Build your human judgment and don't just run behind efficiency. Uh, as if you do that, it's called an invisible surrender, relying on AI for everything. You might have deadlines, you might be in a hurry, but pause a little bit. Be mindful, be different, be humans. Social media, tech, job markets, the world wants you to be fast paced and machine like, but we are not machines, we are humans. So do what humans do best, be wise, slow down, and think. Thank you so much. We are now open for Q&A. Megan, over to you.
Thank you so much. I was looking for the applause button. Sometimes they have that on here, but thank you so
Thank you.
much, Shaivi. I don't, the audience wouldn't know this, but I haven't heard the whole talk, so I wasn't sure everything that would be here. And even though this is my field of research and work, it's I can safely say I learned some new things today. So that's great. And that template that you have, that sort of guide, that's ideal. That is a great place to start. Then if you're lost on how to get going, there you go. And I would point out that one of the things I saw immediately in that is that it's succinct. And that is such an important thing that a lot of people don't, obviously, why would we know this in AI
Yeah.
prompt, but being succinct saves a lot of headaches, but also a lot of resources. So, speaking of that, let's get into it. Well, actually, no, before we do,
Mhm.
this QR code is for your feedback. Don't worry about it now. You can go for it later. I'm going to paste the link, the actual URL, into the chats. But and we'll reiterate the feedback link as well. I'll put it in the chats right now. But let's get to these questions. Now, we have one question in the comments section, which is asking, can we get the presentation after the workshop? And Shadipa answered yes. So we will make sure that the attendees today have access to this presentation after the fact. And then we have a question in the Q&A box here, which mimics some other questions that came through. So we'll start with that one. I've heard that it's risky to give sensitive information to AI tools. Why is that so? I'll pass this to you, Shaivi.
Yes, thank you so much for question. Whoever raised that question, this is very important. I remember having a conversation with one of my friends, and we came up with a great example. Basically, imagine you have a golden fish with like loads of diamonds, and it's very, very precious to you. And you just keep it because fish needs water. You keep it in a little in the sink of your house. You're like, it's my house, it's my water. The fish is never gonna go anywhere. It's very safe. But what if the fish just starts swimming from the drainage pipe to the canals to the rivers and goes deep into the Pacific Ocean? It's gone. It's not just gone from your own hands, it's basically available to anyone and everyone who comes across it. And that's how sensitive information is. And that's exactly what happens when you upload sensitive information on AI. It's basically going back to a huge data source, and it's no more sensitive, it's at danger. So that's why it's very, very, very important to be mindful of it. Basically, not even mindful, just do not ever put any sensitive information to AI. You can always give a context, right? And then you can understand what's the problem you're facing here, exclude the sensitive information, ask AI, get a response, and then try to mimic or implement that using the data that you have. I hope that helps.
Yeah, that's a an excellent cautionary warning there, because AI is not the first technology we've come across where people, just us, the general public, right? We used it, and it would have been the scientists and the developers before the tech using it in ways not realizing that it was a security risk to our privacy, to our safety. So yeah, that's a very important, guiding point there is be careful with your personal data. You hopefully still get to decide when to share it and when not to share it. And AI is not a safe place for protecting data. It's a safe place for other things, but not for protecting data, because you don't know who's going to have access to it and you don't know where it's going to go. You have no control, as Shaivi said. Okay, so let's see. I was trying to group some of your questions together because some of them were very similar, and I wanted to make sure. Marianne, you're welcome. I'm answering for Shaivi, but thanks for the great question. Let's see. We have some industry specific. Let's see. How about this one? To what extent should a user use AI, like for project development or when they need help? And this goes maybe similar to what was just asked. How reliable are these AI models when we're trying to use them, let's say in the project in space?
Right. So I'm considering, let's talk about any kind of projects. First, let's start with why. Why would you use AI here? Again, as we say, it's like a little assistant for you. So then let it do the scum work in a way, and you do the main human work, right? So if it's a project, you know what the problem is. You can, of course, take help of AI to elaborate the problem, give right words and statements to it, but you know what the problem is or whatever you're trying to solve. And then creating methodologies or approaching certain problems, just like interviews or conducting research and everything, you first do it firsthand, and then of course you can use it to in a way analyze data or find different frameworks. So basically anything that's assisting that process, you should never just let AI do it. You need to make sure you do it and assist it. Now there are two reasons why I say this. Firstly, because you are the human. The reason the project, if you're a student, came to your end is so that you can learn out of it, understand, gain knowledge, right? And even in a corporate space, the project is so that you can use your own skills and experience that you have learned over the years and implement it for the betterment of a good output. And thus, you cannot just let AI do anything. You need to just use it as an assistant to efficient, to gain productivity in your, to make things quick if you have any doubts or anything. Yeah. Megan, would you like to add anything to that?
Well, yeah, I was trying to think. So a lot of people like to, I work in strategy, and AI, that was one of the that was probably the second space that AI showed up in the private sector, because the military was using it, and military, basically every strategy, method, and technique out there was first were tested in the military.
Yeah.
So it's a natural place for the next whatever big tech to show up, is in strategy. With that said, we've tested it a bunch, not different types of AI. So there's predictive AI. I think a lot of what we're thinking about right now is generative AI, which is a lot of what Shaivi was talking about, right? Because that's the AI you're probably going to be able to interact with the most control. Like autocorrect is AI, but we don't really have control. It's just on our phones. Right now, Zoom is integrating AI without us really having any say so in it. So I don't mean those forms of AI. But if you're, say, using generative AI to help with a project, some things we find is we're really good after the fact at brainstorming ideas, but sometimes we have a lot of trouble getting started. So traditionally it was, we'll get with a group of people, get with your colleagues, get with your teammates, or get a community advocacy group together and then just start brainstorming, right? Because once we get going, we are phenomenal creatures of idea generation. I mean, this is how we exist, is making these ideas up. But this generative AI can be a really good tool sometimes for just getting the topics going. You can put it in, say, using Shaivi's prompt, what you want, what the parameters are, and or maybe you have no parameters. You should have parameters, and just say generate me, and it can even help to say generate me 5 ideas or 10 ideas. Now what AI is going to put out are the most probabilistic ideas in the environment, in its data already. So AI is not going to come up with new stuff. Generative AI, it is not going to tell you, so it might tell you something you didn't know, but it's not going to come up with something novel and innovative. It's just a great way to get your thinking going, and then maybe throw those on the wall and then run with it yourself. Start thinking, asking yourself, what did AI not come up with? What's between these two ideas? And then that's all you. So that, I think, is a safe way of having AI help you with certain, like, project development or project ideas. So yeah, there's an example. And it's an ethical way too, because you're not saying, well, unless you copy paste everything out of AI and then say it's yours, but that's not who we're talking to today.
And I'm pretty sure none of our audience does that. I'm very,
Right.
very sure.
That's why you're here today. We can see it in the questions. People are asking, how do I become a better professional? How can I use
Yeah.
this profession? And I'll go, in fact, I'll go to that one. Will it give me any work opportunities? So
Oh,
take that.
this, yes, and I'll pass it to you, but because I'm so excited to talk about this. When AI came into picture, I was just doing my master's, so I was like initially very reluctant of like, oh, I shouldn't use it. I'm a creative brain. I shouldn't rely on anything, this and that. But as soon as I realized the good things of it, how it was all the ways helping my process and everything, I soon jumped on the wave and I started understanding, just enhancing my knowledge of different tools, use cases, examples, and how it has people are already trying to in a way be creative and experimentative with upcoming AI tools. And by this I'm not talking about any coding or paid software, just generative AI in general, right? And I'm a designer as well, so what I started looking at is how designers are using AI. And then in just a matter of 1 year came this entire new role of AI prompt designers or conversational AI designers. And I soon realized that it is bringing me so many new opportunities. I did a few projects on that and got some great work. Of course, because it's a new role, no one has experience or academic background in it. Only because I was aware, informed, and I had tried these tools myself, I had that confidence, and that opened doors in so many different ways. So yeah, go out there, be curious about AI and what it's doing and what good it's doing. If like find use cases, even advocate of how it's doing good, and see what kind of opportunities it gets you. Megan, what do you?
I think, and this is, I like this question because, like Shaibi pointed out, there are brand new jobs that come from every new tech, every new mineral we find, which by the way, we're still finding new minerals in the planet. I mean, it creates new industries and industries and jobs in ways that can be so tangential. They don't even seem like they're related, but they absolutely are. So one of the things that comes from a new tech, especially new digital tech, is the entire industry, risk industry that follows from it. So obviously that's where I would be thinking as a strategist. But one of the things you see is fraud. So you end up with these forensic investigations. I don't want to call them investigators because they have different jobs, but you end up learning how to read metadata that helps you understand if something was AI supported, crypto supported, or supported in other ways. There's so much metadata out there, and everything in the digital space. I was going to say on the internet, but everything in the digital
Yeah.
space leaves a digital marker. This was a job that didn't exist until the digital reality existed. You know, we didn't have fraud detection in financial tech until finances moved into a more digital technical space, while other techniques. So these are things you could think about. You know, you could be an expert in building a type of AI. You can be or you can just, you know, you don't have to be an expert. But AI, and that's what a lot of people think, right? But then there are so many other jobs around AI. I don't build AI, but I work in AI, and really I work in, if you were to break it down academically, cognition. I work in cognitive sciences, but everything I do informs how users use AI and how future developers develop new forms of AI. So it's things like that. So there's a lot you can get into it. And I'm going to go into a next question about this. Uh, nope, not that question. um, oh, because there were some really intense ones. Those are all career ones. So, how is AI making the revolution? It's job creating, it's job eliminating, and that's what every technology does. It eliminates a lot of the analog versions that were existing at the time, but that doesn't mean that it means wide job loss. I mean, think about how many people are on the planet right now versus how many people were on the planet 100 years ago, and how many jobs exist now that employ the planet, and how many of those jobs and industries weren't even conceived of, much less existing 100 years ago. And that's how it works. New tech makes new jobs. So the best thing you do is just keep rolling forward, keep looking forward. You don't have to be an AI either. There's always going to be fields outside of whatever the tech exists, and to use an example we often use in with working with clients who are trying to wrap their minds around this is the hammer still exists. Nothing has replaced the hammer. There's just been better versions of hammers. There's been specialist hammers for specialist
Very true.
jobs, and
Yep.
there's different size hammers for different size grips. But hammers still exist, and there's still a need for them. And that doesn't mean that it's any less valuable because, I don't know, the power saw came around. So do keep that in mind. We are in a world where we can't escape AI. Like I said, like Zoom has AI, whether we like it or not. But you don't have to make it your personality if you don't want to. You can just be really proficient and understand it. Um, we have another question in the chat, so I'm going to go there. How effective is it to use AI for computing? And this I'm going to couple with another question, which is how do you validate, and what are ways you can validate and trust computational predictions in real life? So, and I like the in real life qualifier because we have the AI version of reality that AI constructs, and then we have what we've agreed is our physical reality that we share and construct in our own ways. Do you want to go with that first, or do
Uh,
you?
I think I remember one of our conversations, Megan, where you were trying to explain me a little framework that you came up with or a paper you're writing. Can you, yeah, I would love for you to talk about that.
I have a few frameworks.
Yeah,
Well, I'm working on one right now.
you're
So
so
what we're
cool.
working on is how AI affects different ways of being a professional. So when you have to think creatively, when you have to make those causal connections. So we're still building that right now. We actually have no idea. But that will be coming out. And since you mentioned that, this QR link and the URL will link you to my lab, and you can sign up for future announcements
Yeah.
about not just these webinars, but the insights, the discoveries that we're making, and the research that we're doing, because we're working with real organizations, we're working with governments. So yeah, and I will share more about the framework. I think what we were talking about, Shaivi, was very conceptual still, but that's how you build.
Yeah.
That's how AI knowledge is built on these frameworks of knowledge. These, we call it cognitive architectures.
Mhm.
So if you ever see that, it's actually AI borrowing from psychology, but then psychology borrowing back from AI. So very circular in that. But let's see. How effective is it to use AI for computing, and how do we validate and trust what comes from it?
Ah, well, I would like to answer the second part of how do you validate and trust.
Oh,
It's firstly human instincts. Like, I don't think any technology can ever replicate the human instincts that we get. You are using it in a field which you have knowledge of. So I'm not talking about a universal divine intervention saying this is wrong. It's just your instincts based on your knowledge, what you have already learned. So when whatever outputs you get, just go through it again, see what you had asked, what you had expected, and what it gave you, and validate it with with other humans or other trusted resources. What I'm also meaning to say is that we have had some amazing researchers, inventors throughout humanity's history, even when AI or forget AI, computers didn't exist, and still discoveries, amazing byproducts have taken into shape. So we always rely on all those things before just completely trusting AI. That would be my answer.
yeah, no, that sounds great. I mean, so one thing I know, let's just say it's one of the things I know well, is the history of how AI machines in the different areas from the 20th century, and the inventors of AI. And I was an early AI tester when I was a kid too, totally unrelated. It just happens to be the world I was born into. And yeah, that was one of the biggest arguments. Was there was a camp over here that said, there's this thing called human intuition and objective theory, and that's how brains work. Therefore, that's how artificial intelligence, in whatever form it takes, has to work. And then there was that camp over here that said nothing's ever proven that for human intelligence. And in order to be intelligent, you don't necessarily need that. You just need to have things like neural networks and all that kind of stuff. And so that was the one that became more marketable. It became easier to build. And that's why we have this LLM neural network deep processing version now. So, with that said, how effective is it to use AI for computing? It really depends on your computing. Like right now, I know that a lot of the weather forecasting scientists are using generative AI to help them write some their codes. Because the nice thing with coding, no matter what language you're working in, that I know of at least, is it's a finite system of symbols that you can arguably combine in infinite number of ways, but it's a finite system. So the if then statements in their forecasting, I don't actually know what language they're using, but it's going to be the same if then coding,
Hmm.
and it's just the variables and the parameters that change. So it's great for coming up with code, because most of us who are in, I would say all of us who are in coding, maybe we generate some fresh code, but that's after going and doing Google searches,
Yeah.
or going to our GitHub and stuff, and just copying existing code and plugging it into our programs. So it's really good for that, but
Mhm.
you need to know what you're talking about,
Yeah.
because there's always going to be errors. It's not going to get everything right, because even in the framework that she provided for the prompts, we can't think about those old movies with genies where you would ask a genie make a wish and then the genie would get your wish technically right, but then the wish was meaningless. And so they would try and be ever more specific and ever more specific to try and avoid any errors, and the genie was always kind of tricksy that way. Well, it's kind of similar with AI without the trickiness. It's like you just cannot be specific enough to get the absolute perfect response, because you can get really good approximations.
Yeah.
And then with your expertise, run with it. So that goes into the validation and trust. Yes, I agree with Shaivi. Like, you need to have the knowledge to look at something and say this is or is not. Experts are proving to be pretty good with parsing out high quality, low quality generative AI output and trends from predictive AI. But novices or students or anybody who's just not really an expert in a field, they don't know what the answers are supposed to look like sometimes. So they just accept whatever comes. And that's where a lot of the errors sneak in. So if you're looking at especially quantitative computations, remember that AI is not a statistical software package. It was not designed to be a software package, and it
Yeah.
might be someday, but it's not right now. So the
Yeah.
best way to validate it is through statistical software packages, that kind of thing.
Definitely. Also, just a little more thing. Don't ever compromise on what output you're getting. If you think that's not good enough, go keep asking more questions. You can't just be like, oh, oh, this is fine. I'm just gonna use this. No, please don't compromise.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think the mistake we've all been making is thinking that AI is an approximation of human intelligence or any intelligence. And to tell you the truth, all of us who are developing AI, who've been behind the scenes, who have been, pushing this, we don't think it's intelligence. It's not. It's a probability system right now. Future AI, I cannot speak for, but right now, the common AI we have right now, getting into agentic AI even,
Hmm. Yeah.
it is a probability system. It is incredibly complex. Like, it is so, and I think that's where we get lost, is we think we've mistaken complexity for intelligence, and it's like, no, it's just algebra. It's really, really good. It's the difference between basic arithmetic and calculus, if you will, when you're a 5-year old trying to figure this out.
Oh, definitely.
So, you know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
like, it's just amazing and magic. All right, so we've got a question in the chat box here that was submitted earlier, and I really did want to get to it. What are the key perspectives, or what are some of the key perspectives of using AI for research purposes? So we do have a lot of researchers and academics in the room. So I think that that is something we should spend time on, because they're the ones using AI a lot right now, or at least looking for reasons to. So I'll pass it back to you.
Yes. Just to elaborate on the question, three perspectives, as in the whys or the hows.
How just
How? I mean, of course, we have some very powerful, in a way, in terms of how the kind of output they give, tools coming in, which AI researchers are using more often. I remember reading something about a tool called Semantic Scholar or Anara. I've in general, like, not hardcore research, but even basic research, Claude, anything who reasons and who gives you the right sources, or who has updated with the kind of data bank that's referring from, is quite good options. Again, most, I'm not sure if which of these tools would be available where. Not all of them would be globally available. Some would be more accessible in the European subcontinent, some in Asia as well.
yeah. So the key with using AI in research, research is a branch of science, and it's really important to understand that the field of science is held to a very high standard of transparency.
Yeah.
And if you can nail the transparency part, then if you messed up, it doesn't matter, because everybody's going to see it anyway, because you're being transparent, right?
Yeah.
But also accuracy. So again, this isn't about finding truth. This is about being accurate in what you say and how you say it and what you present. So I would not, if you use generative AI to generate your research perspectives, your research ideas, your research say, scoping the field, the way we use Google Scholar to find existing research, or your libraries. If you use AI for that, you're going to get a bastardization of reality. It's going to be super limited. You're going to get nonsensical. And that's because AI is not working with the same knowledge and assumption of parameters that you and I are working with when we're thinking about research. It's like everything I can scrape off the internet is valued equally. And now I'm going to play a probabilities game.
Mhm.
So I was able to get I was able to get Chat GPT rather to tell me how to feed babies concrete, only because it just happened to be that some of the terminology in developmental, some sort of developmental disorder, cognitive disorder, those papers were sharing a similar language as like construction industry
Oh
engineering
my
papers,
God.
and ChatGPT was just playing probabilities. So
Wow.
yeah, so these are really prolific errors that is still exist. So you really need to have the foundation of the human-based education, understanding expertise, whether it's field expertise. It doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily mean, because this is for project managers too, who have a lot of education from the field.
Yeah.
But it is a very poor use for working through any high level research. And I'll give you an example right now. 100% of the PhD students who entered the university last year all used some form of AI. So it was Claude for some, DeepSeek, and I think paid subscriptions for
Okay.
ChatGPT, the education subscription. They all used AI to complete one of these simplest quantitative research studies. And it's just an exercise for them to see if they want to be quantitative for their doctoral work. And all of them failed, every last one of them. So, and they
Wow.
didn't think they failed. Obviously, nobody actually walked into that thinking they were going to fail. And it's because they used AI to do their statistics, to do their thinking, to do their summaries, to basically offload their cognition. So when you're using AI, don't think about offloading your cognition as the researcher or the project manager or the team head that you are. Think of it as, I don't know, like a note taker, a helper, an aid, an additional support, but not a substitution.
Yeah, and also on like more like manner, I think the brain has more grooves the more you learn, develop, and experience new things. So if you're just gonna deload load everything on AI, you're gonna end up having a very smooth brain. I don't think we need a smooth brain. We need like a nice brain. So let's not do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And this goes back to what Shaivi was saying. You cannot substitute critical thinking. It's not going to
Mm,
happen.
mm,
But you can become a very proficient AI user in
yeah.
whatever platform you choose. Because remember, there are tons and tons of different types of AI. So goes to the last question, which comes to ethicality. We've kind of talked about that a bunch without saying without being explicit. But is that, how do you become an expert in using AI? How do you make it work for your professional life? Practice, use it. Follow Shaivi's guidance. You are this professional, so you will use it in this way, and now start using it in this way and see and work on your skills.
Also, yeah, I think you should experiment and see what the experts in your field are doing, see how they're using AI. I'm pretty sure there are numerous keynote speeches around AI for designers, data scientists, researchers, students. Just go and see what are the right ways and wrong ways, and of course we have the understanding of right and wrong. And last but not least, have autonomy over how you're using it and how AI is in a way being used by you. So that's very, very important, autonomy.
Yes. um I'm typing something, sorry.
No, no, that's all right.
Okay, so I've just put in the chat the
Mm-hmm.
link again that is tied to this QR code. We have about 3 minutes left. So please, the more feedback we can get from you, the more better we can design different workshops. Different upskilling are always free. So they're through my research lab. And today it was in collaboration with Shadipa at Strathclyde University in the engineering department. But we try to bring upskilling and information sessions always free because knowledge should always be free, and we all deserve to be part of our own advancements. So thank
It's
you
very
very
true.
much, Saivi. Thank you, Dr. Sharifa Sarkar. I really appreciate y'all joining forces today. And everybody in the audience, don't forget, sign up to our emails are there. You can follow us on LinkedIn. You can follow us wherever we happen to be on the internet. And I will leave the last words to Shaivi.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. I hope this helped you in a way or another. The intention was just to spread a little more information, a little more awareness about AI, and I still hope that you keep using AI just in the right way. And yeah, thank you so much, and have a lovely rest of your day.